Hello and welcome everyone to our webinar today, how to change to a product design career and why it's a good idea. My name is Daniel. I'm the head of enrolments here at Fourth Rev and always enjoy being your host for these value add events for yourself considering study options and also your career options. We're here obviously to explore the exciting world of UX UI product design and help you understand why it might be the perfect career move for you. So it is all about you and your activity, involvement, and questions are much appreciated. I'll touch on that in a moment. Whether you're a recent graduate, a mid-career professional, or someone looking to make a complete career change, this webinar will provide valuable insights and practical guidance to help you achieve your goals in the field of product design. Just a little bit of housekeeping first as well. Feel free to drop in the chat function where you're from. In the Q&A function as we go and as we get to our panel shortly, I'm sure you'll have some questions. Please do pop them in the Q&A function. We'll use the chat area for valuable discussion and polls and some links that you may find very valuable along the way. Q&A for the questions, chat for the other items as well. We're going to cover a number of items today. We'll start with an overview of the current product design landscape, exploring why it's an excellent career choice. We'll dive into what a product designer actually does, including the critical roles of UX and UI. We'll discuss how you can make the transition into this exciting field. We'll explore the growing importance of AI in UX and UI product design. And finally, we'll look at how the King's UX UI product design career accelerator can help you navigate this important career change if that is what you're seeking to achieve. Next, though, it would give me great pleasure, first of all, to then welcome our panel. We always put together an amazing panel, and today's no exception. Welcome, Randy, Judith, and Kevin. I might start with Randy first, if that's okay. Firstly, thank you for joining. And secondly, if you can give the audience a quick overview of your background and current role.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel, and thanks for having me. So my name is Randy Sang, and I am based in London, and I work for a company called Thrive. So Thrive is, we sell healthy microwave meals on a subscription basis to people here in the UK. So I lead product design at this company. So I am in charge of all things web, all things app, and also all things, all internal tooling in our food production facilities.
Fantastic. Thank you, Randy. And kudos to you also for stepping off a plane and joining us today. It is certainly much appreciated.
Thank you.
Welcome, and lovely to see your contribution again. Welcome. Judith, if you can give us a quick overview of your background and current role.
Excellent. Also, thank you for having me. I'm Judith Mora. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a startup called Numad. We're in the health technology space, and it's our third year of operation. So it's very exciting. It's also very exciting to to have founded a technology platform as a product designer myself, although I have done sort of product management as well. So a bit of I will have a lot to say about being a career changer, that's for sure. I'm also one of the facilitators on this course as well. So really looking forward to meeting some of you as well, hopefully, when you join the next cohort.
We love your input and the students, much appreciated. And thank you, Judith. Kevin, welcome.
Hey, Daniel. Thanks for having me again.
My absolute pleasure. Great to see you again. And thank you once again for your contribution. If you can give the audience a quick overview also.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a senior product designer at Toyota. So right now I'm working on next generation infotainment system. So, the center console within your car, that's kind of what I'm working on right now. I'm also one of the course contributors. So I helped Fall Forever Kings to put together the UX course that we're going to be talking about today.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I'll touch on that industry-led co-creation later on as well, because your input there was most valued as well. Before we move on, though, I'd like to ask the audience, if in the chat you could put what you're seeking. Is it that you are seeking to commence your career? Are you seeking to change your career into product design, or are you seeking to advance your existing career? So start, change, or advance, and that will certainly help us understand a little bit more about who's attending and how we can tailor some of the discussion around your needs as well. On to the next slide, though. Let's start, I guess, by looking at why product design is such an attractive career option right now. The demand for skilled product designers has been growing significantly after a previous lull. In the UK, we're seeing average salaries also increase and range from around that 46 to 75, depending on seniority. This growth isn't just about the number of jobs, it's also the increasing recognition of the value that a great product designer brings to businesses. If a user's online experience with the business is not so good, or if it's bad, 88% of consumers won't return to that site. It's critical, obviously. Companies are realizing that user-centered design is critical for success and customer satisfaction and retention as well. On to the next one, if we can. Key roles and responsibilities. A product designer wears many hats. At its core, the role is about creating digital products that are both functional and delightful to use. This involves several key responsibilities. User research, understanding the needs, preferences, and pain points of your target users. Wireframing and prototyping, creating that low and high fidelity mock-ups of the product. Visual design, developing an aesthetic aspects of the product interface. Usability testing, ensuring the product is intuitive and easy to use. Collaboration, working closely with developers, product managers, and other stakeholders. What's crucial to understand is that product design isn't just about making things look pretty. It's about solving problems and creating experiences that truly work for users. And I love the term that someone gave recently about how can I make them say, wow? I think that can do it. But to the panel, I guess, what are the trends you are seeing in the hiring landscape for product designers? Are there particular skills and experiences that companies are eager to find? I might start with Kevin, actually, and go the reverse order of the intros.
I think there's a lot of cross skill from a UX UI perspective at the moment. Kind of maybe for the last 5 years, there's been a lot of increase for hiring product designers, I feel, as opposed to, say, maybe 10 years ago, it used to be, UX and UI and then research. So they're all like separate entities. But nowadays, I think a lot of companies are looking for someone who's well-rounded, not necessarily a jack of all trade, but being really good at all three of those different skills. So I think that's like one of the main changes in the industry at the moment. And probably, as you mentioned earlier as well, learning about AI, how that could affect what you're working on. I don't see it as a replacing designers or developers, but more how how can we make use of this tool and use that to help facilitate what we're working on. So yeah, I think those are the main things from my perspective.
Couldn't agree more. We're going to touch on AI quite deeply throughout the webinar, and pleased to involve that in the program as well. Judith, then next, I guess. Are you seeing any trends in the hiring landscape for product designers?
Yeah, I think I completely echo everything that Kevin said. I think that companies are looking for more well-rounded individuals. And from my perspective, I think that it's also related to the current investment landscape, which of course drives a lot of startups, scale-ups that are often hiring more product designers and more people in just the general sort of product design, UX, UI space as well. And I think because there's been a little bit less investment in the last few years, I think they just want someone who's very solid, or a few people who are very solid and kind of know everything all around. But one thing, actually a couple of things that I've noticed more recently is that often when we talk about product designers, companies sometimes also expect you to bring some ideas around technology solutions, obviously depending on the type of company you work for, but sometimes you need to have an understanding about certain technologies, how they might integrate so that you can work better with developers, and that you have to bring a lot more of that sort of those ideas of how certain technologies may work together as well. And I think that's something that is very difficult at the moment. But I think that it makes everyone a better designer. At least that's what I've seen. And then I think the other one is kind of a little bit of added motion into UI, which wasn't traditionally part of someone who was maybe a UX UI designer doing sort of motion interaction. And I think a lot of product designers end up doing a lot more of that these days as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just a reminder for everyone to pop your questions as we go in the Q&A function. We'll get to them shortly. Randy, you seen any trends that we haven't touched on so far, or any particular skills that employers are seeking?
Yeah, maybe an extension of what Judith and Kevin sort of alluded to. Maybe it's not quite a trend yet, but what I have started seeing is the elevation of what I would call sort of individual contributors to senior levels. So whereas maybe 5-10 years ago, you would have sort of general managers or product managers in these kind of lead design positions, head of design, kind of business savvy people leading these teams. I'm starting to see a lot more hands-on designers attain kind of lead designer, head of design, director of design. I think that's maybe to do with the idea of designers becoming a bit more generalist, as Kevin was saying, or people designers getting more experienced in sort of technology, the handover process, the ways of working. So I think that's something that I've seen over the last couple of years.
Yep. And I'll just add one from our learners' feedback who've obtained career outcomes following their completion of the career accelerators, the value that employers are placing on transferable skills from like industries or other sectors. And that's we're seeing that come through quite a lot as well. I'll go to the next slide. And we'll discuss what we touched on, what Kevin touched on a moment ago as well. UX versus UI in product design. So UI design, I guess when we look at product design, we often talk about both. Whilst these are distinct areas, they're closely related and overlap in the product designer's role. UX design focuses on the overall experience of using a product. It involves understanding user needs, so important, creating user flows and ensuring the product is intuitive and satisfying to use. UI design, on the other hand, is more about the visual interactive elements of the product. This includes creating visually appealing interfaces, ensuring brand consistency, and designing micro interactions that delight users. As a product designer, you'll likely need to have skills in both areas, as we've mentioned, allowing you to create products that are both functional and beautiful, or make the user say, wow. For the panel, I guess, as experienced product designers, how do you see the balance between UX and UI skills playing out in day to day? Can you give even an example where both may have been critical? And I'll open it up to whoever would like to come off mute first.
Yeah, I can start. I think you phrased it quite well earlier, Daniel, where you say talking about product design being there to kind of solve problems. And I think product design really is a way of thinking. So how you apply that thinking to a problem is quite key to being a sort of good product designer. And whether it's seeing a problem or a project and having to focus on more user research or more user testing, or whether you can kind of take some shortcuts and go straight into kind of the visual design or the prototyping. I think knowing where that balance is and where to kind of put your focus, I think is quite a key skill set. And as we would all love to go through a pure, rigorous, user-centered design process for every single project, the realities of work, timelines, budgets don't allow that. Yes. So being able to know when to take some shortcuts, when to take assumptions, and when to where to focus your energy, I think is quite key in this kind of UX UI sort of balancing act.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. I might ask Kevin, and I'm not sure how much you can discuss specifically, Kevin, regarding the project that you mentioned in your introduction, but is there some insights you can provide between of the balance that particular project requires?
Yes. It depends what kind of project it is. So, there might be times where we're building something completely brand new and no one's ever done it before. In that instance, you probably do a more end-to-end discovery process to see, what it is that customers like and want to see within the vehicles. But if it's something generic, for example, the map system within the cars, it's not a new feature. Everybody's got it on their phone, Google Maps and Waze. In that instance, then you, as Randy said, you would just kind of do a lot of assumption that people are already familiar with, clicking on the search button and typing in a postcode to search for a location, and also assuming that what people are seeing in Google is more or less what people want to see within a search list. And then obviously, from our perspective, we'll just put our own twist on it. We'll do a bit of research to see what, maybe Toyota's customers are interested in seeing, and then adapt that to what they would be interested in.
It's interesting. I do often think, how big will the screens be in 5 or 10 years within a car? Because some of the cars now, they extend east-west from driver, passenger. It's quite amazing to witness the evolution of that in relatively shorter space of time. Judith, anything you'd like to mention there?
I think I had a slightly different perspective on this, that I think the balance between UX, UI, is it the right product design kind of mix, what tools do you use, how much research do you do, is actually also related to the design maturity of the organization. Because within organizations where design or UX is not very mature, there's so much bias towards UI, and a lot of the kind of UX and research is often overlooked. And even as you're presenting your work, it has to be very polished and it has to be very kind of visually engaging, even the presentation itself, which is always good practice. But regardless, there's definitely a bias for that. And I think that with organizations that are a lot more mature and they really see the value of heavier research, again, we always know budgets and timelines are always a nightmare. But those organizations that put more emphasis on it, and then there's actually usually more UX design and research going on and less UI, so it then goes the other way. So I always see it as a bit of a pendulum of which one do you do more as the kind of maturity of the organization grows, basically.
Yeah, that's well thought out. And I guess for the audience benefit there, you've got that real world perspective from 3 experts. It's clear that having that broad skill set is valuable in this field. Now, I'd love to I guess, bring the conversation towards someone making a transition into the field and to do so successfully as well. If we can go to the next slide, Sam. So pathways to product design, one of the great things about product design, as we've already discovered, is that it's open, is a field open to career changes. And I think off the top of my head, the last presentation of our UX UI product design career accelerator was close to 70% career changes. The rest were made up mostly of some starters and advances, obviously, but the vast majority were career changes. People come into product design from a variety of backgrounds, and it's so good to see. Some common paths are obvious: graphic design, web development, some marketing, even fields like psychology. What these backgrounds have in common is a mix of analytical thinking and creativity. The key to making a successful transition is to focus developing on the core skills needed in product design, building a really valuable portfolio that shines and showcases these skills. And this is where comprehensive education and training can be incredibly valuable as well. There's a statistic there that I found interesting as well. Our learners have backgrounds in teaching, banking, and office work, and 44% come from digital roles like marketing, development, and design. And that's where we've found also employers place such emphasis on those transferable skills that people can bring to an organisation as well. I guess the next slide shows us also the essential skills to develop. So to become a successful product designer, there's several skills we've touched on, but also additional skills that would be of benefit developing. We've gone through user research, and that's been touched on a lot, depending on budgets. Learning how to gather and analyze user data, wireframing and prototyping, creating those blueprints of your design. Visual design, developing your eye for aesthetics and layout, and real estate within different areas as well, I think it's called. Usability testing, understanding how to validate your designs with real users. Design software proficiency, so mastering tools such as Figma and Sketch. Understanding basic understandings of HTML and CSS helps you communicate better with developers. And generative AI literacy. Microsoft reports that 66% of leaders say they will only hire now people with some form of Gen AI skills like ChatGPT and Copilot. Developing these skills do take some time and practice, but with education and the right guidance, it's absolutely achievable in a short space of time. Thinking back for the panel now, once again, thinking back to when you started in product design, what skill or experience do you wish you had focused on earlier in your career? And again, I'll leave it open to who's quickest off the mute button.
I can start this one. So I've actually studied marketing and then worked in advertising agencies that were kind of digital. And UX at the time was really kind of, to be honest, like a very kind of rare skill people had, and people didn't really understand what it was. And I sort of started having conversations with people quite early on, and I realized like, oh, that's something that's really missing and really ties everything together within the process of an agency. So I kind of started by doing wireframing, prototyping, and I didn't have a visual design background. So I think for me, it started with learning the software. At the time, there wasn't even Figma and Sketch. It was older platforms, but it was learning those softwares and starting with wireframing. And I think having come from a marketing background, user research for me made sense, because marketing, if you do it well, obviously you kind of test your audiences and find out what they really want. But I think there's a lot more to it. And I think for me, I wish I focus more on learning exactly how user research can be different, particularly for product design and UX design, rather than just assume that it's very similar to marketing. And to be fair, I did kind of do HTML and CSS very early on as well. But I think, as I said, the research is for me the one that I wish I put more emphasis on early on.
Yeah, interesting. That's very interesting. Randy or Kevin, anything to add there?
Yeah, I mean, I did go through a career change at one point, but I went the other way. So I actually left the industry for 5 years and then came back to it. So I have a 5-year kind of gap in my knowledge when I did come back to it. And during that time, a little thing called Figma came along. And so I had to spend quite a lot of time kind of getting myself back up to speed, learning that software. And it was valuable because as you may know, it's now sort of the de facto tool that we use in our industry or in our profession. That's not to say that it will be forever, but I think where we are today is that the developments that Figma are making to their software are actually dictating our workflows and our work processes in our companies. So they've put a lot of focus over the last couple of years on the designer-developer handover relationship, which has actually determined how we put together our design files. So there's a lot of technical kind of nuance in there that a designer would probably have to keep up to speed with. And I would say it's vitally important to be up to date on that. And I would say it's probably one of the key sort of inflection points of our industry, the release of software like Figma, but also probably AI is going to be the next one as well. So there's always the next thing. So yeah, just keeping up to date with everything. Being this kind of generalist designer, you just need to keep on top of everything.
That's great, mate. And it's a great segue, but I'll check in with Kevin first.
Yeah, so I studied traditional product design for my degree. So it's quite similar to kind of digital product design, but obviously rather than using Figma and creating a web product, we're using like 3D CAD and then creating a physical product. And I think I was always quite a technical focused person. And, I spent a lot of time doing like CAD work, and kind of negated, all the use of research and persona and that side of design. But in reality, when you get into the industry, I think that side is what a lot of companies actually value, because it shows that's where you show a lot of creativity and you show that you've got a business mindset, as opposed to just being able to sit in front of a computer and using Figma or CAD. But regardless of that, when you get into the industry, there will be loads of different areas that you end up working on. So so Randy and I used to work together, and at that time, we focus a lot on the design and development handover stage. So kind of what he was talking about with how Figma's like dictating a lot of what we're doing right now. But now I'm focusing more on idea creation, so less on the development, design and development handover side. So there could be a lot of different areas that you end up spending a lot of your time focusing on. So I'd say like probably 90% of what I'm doing now is just creating new ideas. So yeah, keeping up to, but then it's also really important for me to keep up to skill with on the Figma side as well, because otherwise if I leave Toyota and I go somewhere else, they might want me to focus on that again. So yeah, I think just being able to upskill yourself and not stay fixated on something, that's one of the most important aspects.
Good point. It must be a fascinating role that you have, and enabling you to draw inspiration from many different areas. In what it might look like in the future. And it's always valuable for everyone, I guess, for the audience to hear from people that have been through a similar journey to what you may be considering. But now I do want to dive deep into AI, and I do want to remind the audience to pop your questions in the Q&A. We've got some time reserved to answer your specific questions regarding anything that the panel's discussed or the program that I'll come to again shortly. But we're going to touch now on AI and AI applications in product design. So obviously, artificial intelligence is rapidly changing many industries, and product design is no exception. AI is opening up new possibilities for creating more personalized, efficient, and accessible designs. Some key applications of AI in product design may include automated UI generation. AI can generate multiple design variations quickly. Personalization, it can help obviously create user experiences that adapt to individual preferences. There's pitfalls with some of these that product designers obviously need to manage and be aware of though as well. Predictive user behavior, it can in some ways anticipate user needs and actions potentially. Design system management, AI can help maintain consistency across large design systems. And accessibility improvements. AI can suggest improvements to make designs more inclusive, which is highly valuable. With the ability to visualize concepts in high fidelity much earlier in the process, companies can elicit more precise feedback from customers as they work to fine-tune every element of the user experience. In product research and design alone, McKinsey estimates Gen AI could unlock 60 billion in productivity. While AI won't replace human designers, it's becoming an invaluable tool to enhance our capabilities and allowing us to focus on more strategic aspects of design. To dive a little further into future trends in AI and product design, looking at the future, we can expect AI to play an even larger role in product design. We may see some more advanced design assistants that can generate entire flows based on prompts or simple prompts, or that AI can conduct and analyze user research at unprecedented scales. However, it's important to remember that the core of product design will always be human creativity and empathy. AI is a tool that enhances our abilities, not replace the need for skilled designers. And you can see there, that I'll just go back if we can, one. I think that's a great slide in relation to those 4 areas that I touched on, to consider further as well. But I'm keen to get the panelists' thoughts on this. On the next slide, as professionals in the industry and potentially or no doubt working with AI in some capacity, can you share an example of how AI has enhanced your work? Judith, are you using that within your business currently?
Yeah, I think to be fair, in my startup, in this space within healthcare, AI is kind of lagging behind, because with healthcare information and data, there's always has to be like a much higher level of trust of what an AI can generate. However, I know that within the pharmaceutical space, actually the application of Gen AI has has really, really great potentials of kind of generating data sets with synthetic data and so on. So I think there's a lot of very interesting things in that space that various different tools can add, or technologies really can add. I think really, I'm sure everybody kind of just like uses any text generators, however many there are now. I think generating content is kind of one that most people use for various things. It always requires a human eye to look through it. I think things like generating UI patterns does appear in a lot of different tools, and I think that's really kind of handy. It speeds things up, but again, it needs some strategic thinking. I think we're not quite there yet with with Gen AI tools and AI tools overall. Is we still need human creativity and ingenuity to connect the dots from strategic thinking to actual execution. And even though the execution of various parts can be sort of I would say like maybe like a co-pilot, or like a sort of like a helping hand who kind of just does the sort of very tedious parts really, but I think to connect the dots and have that strategic thinking and to really focus on insights, and insights being carried on from research all the way to execution is that's why we're there for. And AI is not, I don't know how that will happen eventually. I don't think we're there yet, but that's basically where I stand with it.
I think it's by the color of my hair, you may be able to tell that I recall the introduction of Microsoft Office, and the tagline at the time was that Excel will kill accountants. I do see some similarities in this, in that those that embrace the tools that it can provide and learn that as to their benefit will highly will excel. We see it with data as well. There's no real data entry roles being advertised anymore. It's more about the analysis of data, because the entry part of it's automated on scale everywhere. So I do see similarities with that, and completely agree with what you mentioned then, Judith. Kevin or Randy, any thoughts on or any examples of how AI has enhanced your work?
Yeah, I can go. I think, as Judith said, AI is not necessarily quite there in terms of producing design. I think the best way I think about it is AI is really good, or image generation is really good at form, but not very good at function. I think just looking at that screenshot you had a couple of slides back of the control pad, looks nice, but then when you sort of poke holes in it, you start to realize, well, what's this button doing here, or why is this button underneath the glass, or where does it charge? Like, is the port on the top, or has it got pins on the back? You don't have the different views of that control pad. So it, yeah, at first glance, it might look like it does something impressive, but then as you start nitpicking and sort of peeling back the layers, you'll find that it's lacking, and that's where a kind of human kind of input is required. Where we have been using it in our work actually is by feeding ChatGPT a lot of our context about what we do. We're able to kind of produce sort of skeleton plans for our work, testing plans, success criteria, content strategies. So we have a whole sort of library of information about our product, our customers, and we feed that into a ChatGPT. So we feed our analysis or our insights about our users at each step of our kind of customer journey. We feed it our content strategy or branding strategy, tone of voice. So we have documents about that. We kind of teach our AI about our sort of content frameworks. And then based on all of that context, if we're releasing a new product, can you spit out a few pages or touch points that we need to consider? What success criteria, what should we be tracking, and what should we be testing? And can you produce a kind of rough testing plan for us? So that kind of thing, basically, it's like a force multiplier for a product designer. It'll just speed up a lot of stuff that would normally take days, weeks. You can do in hours or days. It's but you do have to have the experience of what to look for. You almost have to be the senior designer to the ChatGPT junior designer.
That's a good way of putting it, actually. I hadn't heard that. Kevin, any thoughts or especially examples, or even how you see the role of human designers evolving as AI capabilities grow as well?
Yes. So AI, how it works is obviously, it gets fed a lot of information and it just takes the different variation and the kind of like the common denominator and then outputs something to you. So from a UX UI perspective, obviously within the industry that I'm working in, there isn't a lot of information online. And certainly when you look up car interiors, it's most certainly not going to be focused on, say, the infotainment screens. So, if you ask the Figma AI tool to generate something, it doesn't really have enough information to generate something for us. But what it's quite good at is to output a generic mobile screen, right? So as Randy said, it can do something really basic and it can do it really well. But then you need to apply that human design thinking around what it is that the AI tool is outputting. And then you need to be able to adapt and progress the design on what it's outputting. Otherwise, yeah, it's just not going to be functional and it's not really going to be usable.
No, exactly. Thank you for some of the questions coming through from the audience. I'm going to jump ahead and ask one specifically from Anthony. Thank you, Anthony, for your contribution, and for everyone else, feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A. But specifically for you, Judith, you mentioned motion as a growing area within UX UI. Anthony asks, could you go into more detail as to what this means? Is it about incorporating videos and imagery into the design process or something else? What technical skills would be needed by the designer in that case?
Very good question. I think that the most of the kind of motion design is not as what a particular motion designer would do. It's more when you create prototypes, you'll need to consider how to connect certain experiences and create those in a very fluid way that will also kind of like output motion. So Figma has these capabilities of, an example would be creating a mobile navigation, which then the burger might turn into a cross and open the kind of mobile nav, and as you click on something it may close up, and to make that very fluid and create that sort of motion element is is a really kind of bread and butter of most product designers nowadays, mainly because Figma brought in the capabilities to be able to do that and present everything in a very fluid, motion-like way. I hope I explained that well. Randy and Kevin, if you have anything to add.
And Anthony, give us a up. I'm going to.
I was just going to add,
Yeah, please.
I do a lot of, I guess they call like animation as well in what I do. So if you're familiar with things like After Effects, that could help. I wouldn't say it's necessary for you to be a product designer, as in like you needing to know After Effects in a lot of details, but it's certainly another tool that if you learn the fundamentals of it, it would really help you out within your product design journey.
Yeah, good point. And I guess that also is dependent on the roles that people are seeking in large environments with multiple UX, UI designers. It's going to be quite narrow, the roles and responsibilities, whereas companies investing in startup world, for example, with the one person, with those transferable skills that I'll touch on a little more now, it's going to be more broad and an understanding of that. All those additional areas are certainly going to help a great deal. Moving along, I guess for the audience that may or are excited about the possibilities of either changing careers or advancing careers in product design, we are always thrilled to introduce new people to the King's UX UI Product Design Career Accelerator. The program is designed specifically to help people like you make that successful transition or advancement. The curriculum covers all of the essential areas that we've discussed today, from user research and wireframing to visual design and usability testing, as well as AI. And one of the key areas that sets this program apart is its focus on practical hands-on learning, where you'll also work on real-world projects that can be included in your, what is most important as an outcome, a portfolio, giving you tangible examples to show your employers. So there's no exams. You can see on the screen course 1, Understanding Users, course 2, Designing for User Needs, course 3, User-Centered Optimization. All of them have mini and major projects to submit, or projects and presentations to submit for assessment during, that do actually also build your portfolio of evidence. I think, part of the challenge that education has in keeping up with industry is that age-old argument about testing and marking and examinations that are unproductive, whereas this, you actually have a productive outcome and a practical application of learning, especially in that 6-week project at the end. So the learning outcomes from those first 3 courses enable your participation in a live industry-facing project. You'll be grouped together with other high-caliber learners in a team. You'll meet with one of our industry partners, such as Sky that we work with and others, Dropbox and DocuSign. They will then present to you a real UX UI product design challenge or scenario. And as a team, applying your learnings from those first 3 courses, you'll come up with innovative and tangible solutions to that scenario, presenting your recommendations back to the client in a consultancy style presentation at the end. The value of that is numerous. It's practical application of learning, which is a positive thing. It's brilliant networking from a peer-to-peer, but also from an industry leader perspective. You'll meet leaders of industry in those projects. And lastly, if you are looking to advance or change career, it is a much more powerful demonstration of your value to a prospective employer to demonstrate the real-world experience that you do have in the form of that real industry project. The program is also led by industry experts, such as Judith especially, but also designed with people like Kevin, who bring current relevant experience to the teaching experience and the learning experience. And importantly, we don't just teach you the skills, it's also the career support in the form of executive style career coaching, one-on-one coaching sessions with people that will help you leverage both your transferable skills and your new skills that you have obtained throughout the Career Accelerator as well. There's a number of assets that Sam's kindly popped into the chat. I'm going to come back to some of them, but if you're unsure about the entry criteria, there's a 3-minute survey that will help you do that. But it was also a chance to a link to book a time with your most empathetic career, your enrolment advisor, who will take, as I said, an empathetic approach to what we deem as a really important life decision. We have numerous career accelerator outcomes that we're so proud of, and I have had great pleasure, as have others, in hosting learners discuss their specific outcomes. And if you go to our YouTube channel, specifically to the UX1 playlist, you'll certainly see them from Claudia Suborn and others, and their live retelling of the benefits of the program are most inspiring and most relatable, given that they've often come from different sectors into UX UI product design as well. Let's get to a couple of questions. I'm mindful of time too. And I'm happy to stick around for course-related specific questions as well. Lucine's asked, and thank you for your input, Lucine. I'm a senior graphic designer and children's book illustrator for 10 years. Well done. You must get great enjoyment out of that. Now you'd like to change, or I'd like to change my career to UX UI product designer. I'm wondering how I can integrate myself into the product design industry as a junior product designer after finishing the accelerator program. Excellent question from the panel. Any tips, suggestions, and tricks about integrating oneself into the industry? Yeah, please, Judah. That's. And I'm
sorry, I saw Kevin also was ready to go. So sorry, I'll start. I'll start then. So I think a lot of career switchers on previous courses with us asked the same question, and what we try to do is look at what are your skills that immediately translate into doing tasks that are similar from your previous role. And this is where, Daniel, you've covered, coming from psychology even, or other creative industries. And I think the advice that I would give is have a think about what are the skills that you already have that product designers have. For example, an eye for visual aesthetics, which you'll probably have, or potentially working in a client-facing environment where you have to manage their expectations and present to them, or taking business requirements from clients. So I think it's all about coming to assess what are the things that you're already doing that you will be doing in your new role, and how do you position yourself, and also even recognize within yourself that you're already confident in a lot of areas.
That's great advice. Kevin, as well, I'll seek your counsel on that.
I was just going to say, I think it's important to build up a portfolio as well, especially if you're starting out, from a hiring perspective. When we look for people, it doesn't have to be, if you've got one piece of work that's really good, but then nothing else, it's still kind of difficult to gauge on, how committed you are. So there's a website called Daily UI. I think that's really good. It gives you like a task to do every day, and it helps you churn out more kind of visual design from a UI perspective. Obviously, I'm not saying put every one of those in your portfolio, but it just helps you start developing your Figma skills, and then it helps you kind of communicate your ideas through Figma. I think that's something that would be really useful for anyone who's looking to transition.
That's good advice. I might get Sam to pop that in the chat for people to have a look at as well. We've got some more questions, and I've got a special offer for the audience. So stick around. I'm going to walk you through that as well. There's a great deal more value for those that are attending and looking to kick off their new year with an investment in themselves as well. Sorry, I've lost the questions. Lucine's asked, it starts on the 10th of February. What's the next start date for the next accelerator program? We will meet with Kings and decide that by the end of this month, I believe. But usually there's 4 intakes per year. So if you can be guided by February, April, July, October, roughly around then, we'll get the exact date of the second cohort shortly. Lucine, please do speak to your enrolment advisor, but there's no point putting off tomorrow what can be done today as well. Anthony's got another question. Thanks, Anthony. Hello. I'm a copywriter who occasionally uses Figma, and I'm interested in moving into a dedicated UX writer role. I was wondering about the demand for this as a specialist role, and also whether the accelerator program would be a useful step in this direction. Judith, do you have some thoughts on that in particular, given the content of the program would help Anthony become rounded in the whole aspect of UX, UI, product design, but then would it also enable him to focus with that background and knowledge as well?
I definitely think it would, because as a UX writer, you really need to embed yourself in every step of the process. Especially writing is quite a strategic role. So you need to kind of be part of the research. You really need to understand the insights. You need to kind of be part of the whole process. And you need to, if there are obviously larger organizations where there's dedicated UX writers. I think smaller companies, they don't necessarily have UX writers, but there's definitely a massively growing demand for UX writers. But you need to be able to collaborate with product designers, UX researchers, and for you to know the process, you'll be able to embed yourself much better with that, and you'll also probably end up realizing that UX writing is not necessarily just about writing, but a lot of it will be around entering into some of the other fields within UX and product design as well. So I would recommend that. It's definitely great. We actually had someone on a couple of cohorts ago who's also a copywriter, and she started out saying she would like to do more UX-based copywriting, and by the end she realized that she actually wants to do more sort of product design. So that's a true example, and I think she's transitioning between those roles at the moment. So I can definitely say that from an experience of someone else in a similar position.
That's exciting. Since asked how much the program costs, it's £5,999. That includes everything: access to the tools during the learning, the individual one-on-one career coaching. But stick around, I've got something to announce for the participants regarding that. And there is a reduction in fees available for those that choose to pay upfront, or there are interest-free payment plans, making it more accessible as well. Again, book a time with your enrolment advisor. They'll go through everything relating to fit, criteria, budgets, and assist your decision-making process there. So thanks, Lucine, for that one, and sorry for not touching on that one as well. Two people have asked the same question here. What is the difference between this course and a master's? Does industry prefer a master's degree when hiring? Kevin, I guess, and Randy as well, and Judith, I guess, I'm conscious of time, but I do want to get to these questions. I think it's really important to understand the difference. This is aimed at postgraduate. Part of the entry criteria is having an undergraduate degree or relevant experience, or professional experience. However, our whole business was here at Fourth Rev, in collaboration with King's on this program and other universities with other career accelerators, was born of providing a solution to the challenge that employers and learners experienced about bridging the gap between academia and industry. Given you were part of that process early on, how do, from your perspective, learners going through a practical program such as this that includes the most up-to-date AI inclusions and the like, how do you compare that to a master's, usually more technical?
Yeah, so this is a practical industry, so it's not like history or chemistry, maybe not history, where you need to prove that you are capable of doing certain things. And I think the amount of content that you'll get from this course is definitely a big advantage over, say, a more traditional degree. I think it would be more like, studying based and an exam based and less course focus. So I think that's probably one of the main benefits. But also, and that's not, downplaying master's degree or whatever, but this course, I helped put it together with a few other industry professionals. So, we've put together content that is relevant to the working world. So I think that those are probably some of the main advantages, and also the ability to work with, some of the companies that Daniel mentioned, and also I think another focus that I try to do within the course as well is to do a lot of case studies for your portfolio. That's another big bonus as well with something like this. And I guess another bonus with this course in conjunction with King's is you're also getting that kind of university educational support system as well. For me, it almost feels like it's the best of both worlds.
Exactly. It brings that
Yeah.
academic that Kings are globally renowned for.
Yeah.
Industry and practical nature that employers are seeking. There is a quadrant of learning. You do learn the technical, you learn the business application of that technical. There's personal growth processes within and opportunities within, and also your employability. That I can't stress enough the value of the career coaching. So Miriam, to your question, absolutely, it will certainly assist you as well. We've only got a few minutes to get through some more of the audience questions. Do you help with the portfolio? Absolutely. It's one of the centerpieces of the program is the development of your portfolio. So you'll get a lot of assistance with that as well. Nathan's asked one for Judith here. How did product design lead you to this journey? Has it helped you in your startup? And what advice will you give some aspiring product designers who want to start their own business like you?
I love this question, actually. So when you start any, if it's a startup that is a service or product offering, which usually is, that you need to kind of start with actual customer validation and a lot of research. And unless you do adequate product research, design, iterative usability testing, your product is not going to be really, it's not going to have market fit. And being a designer and bringing that that way of working has been hugely successful, because the most important feedback that we get from everyone is, wow, I didn't even need to do training and I can use this complex platform. And that is a test, and that is our first release. That's the, let's just say post MVP, because in healthcare you can't release MVPs because everything has to be properly built. But let's just say our first release is something that people really enjoy using, and that can only be done, especially in a startup environment where you're moving fast, you have limited resources, if you do your research and testing well. So it's almost like I don't even imagine how anyone would build a startup without this mindset. And I think that people who are product designers are incredibly well placed to start new businesses and come up with new solutions, because we do it in our jobs day to day anyways.
Exactly. I'm going to bring a few things together now. There's one or two questions I'll come to if I've got a chance. If not, I'll stick around for a moment or two. But I did want to just bring it to the forefront of the key takeaways and some next steps. So let's wrap it up and some of the key points that we've covered before I let the audience know of that early application incentive that's available as well. So we discussed the field of product design is rebounding and still growing, with increasing demand for skilled professionals. Successful product designers combine a diverse skill set, including both UX and UI capabilities. This field offers exciting opportunities for career changes from a variety of backgrounds and skills. AI is becoming an increasingly powerful tool in product design, opening up new possibilities for you to harness and to demonstrate to an employer your value in that way as well. And the King's UX UI Product Design Career Accelerator provides you a structured pathway to launch into a flexible, fulfilling career as a product designer. If you're excited about these possibilities that we've discussed today, I encourage you to take the next step. And the best thing that you've done, first and foremost, is commit to attending today to educate yourself about what is an important decision for many. A career change or a new role or advancing through the investment in yourself is an important investment. And you've taken the first step. The next step is to make a commitment or to discuss that potentially with others around you who may be impacted by your study of around that 15 hours a week over 6 months. The course is delivered both, it's 100% online, obviously, but there is a blend of synchronous and asynchronous delivery, meaning that you can choose mostly when and how study fits in with your life, aside from the live sessions with Judith, that it's highly compulsory, shall I say, Judith, to attend, or highly beneficial to attend live. They are recorded, but you can catch them up, but highly beneficial to do so. Lastly, before I say thank you to the panel, most importantly, and I did want to launch a poll, if I can, Sam, to ask the audience, what's your biggest concern about making the investment in yourself? Is it time commitment? Is it financial cost? Are you unsure about the support systems, or unsure about the career transition success? Pop your answer in there and we'll use that information to guide you towards what might be best. And then it is with much pleasure I also announce the Head Start package. So only until the 16th of December, and it's limited to 12 registrants. Pay a deposit for the February intake by the 16th of December after a successful application, and unlock an exclusive 2025 Head Start package designed to build your confidence and ability in making your career change or accelerate your career. You'll gain access to exclusive goal-setting workshop led by our career coaches to really set up 2025 as the most positive investment in yourself, and to really get a clear vision of what that may look like. You'll get early access to the Career Accelerator alumni networking events of all Career Accelerators. So you'll meet people that have gone through the program, you'll meet people that have gone through our data analytics, and there's amazing hundreds and hundreds of learners that have gone through and will add value to your networking opportunities. And that is so important. You don't realize always just how strong your network can provide, you with such strong opportunities. And then unlock up to 6 months of additional career coaching after the program ends. The career coaching, one-on-one coaching per month with an experienced coach is invaluable. To extend that out to you achieve your intended career outcome, or that 6 months, as I've mentioned, is something that is worth a lot of money, but more importantly, enables you to have a greater impact faster in your desire to accelerate your change of career. There unfortunately aren't any scholarships. Someone's asked we make this as price competitive as possible and do offer those flexible payment plans. The best thing to do is speak to your enrolment advisor. Randy, Judith, and Kevin, thank you ever so kindly for so much of your time and your valuable insights today. I think I'm better for it, but most certainly the audience will appreciate it as much as I do, having you provide such valuable insights to people considering their life decisions as well. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great insights, guys. Thank you ever so kindly. And if there's any other questions, I can stick around for 2 minutes, but I'll wave cheerio to the panel. And lastly, thank everyone for attending as well. A big shout out to Sam in the background as well. Lucine, I've got your question. I'm going to reach out to you, or have your enrolment advisor reach out to you. And someone else has asked also, would I recommend updating the CV and LinkedIn with the transition? Shall I keep a section on my website with my graphic design work? Absolutely. And that's part of also not only the development of the portfolio during the course, but your career coach will guide you towards the best way in which to go about that. I do also recommend, if you can grab some of the followers on the Fourth Rev LinkedIn page. Firstly, you should follow that page. We do post a lot of interesting materials there, but also learner success stories. But go to our YouTube page if you can, and look up some of the learners that I've spoken with previously, and see how they've leveraged their LinkedIn profile, highlighting and showcasing their portfolio skills. I think that's one of the best things that you can do there, but it's important as well. Lastly, as I said, take that next step, book a time with your enrolment advisor. They're going to have a very open discussion with you about what is best for you, and how they can support you in arriving at the decision. To do so, to make and leverage the advantage that the Head Start package offers, I think is a great thing to do, knowing that you can then enjoy Christmas, knowing you've got a secure placement in a King's College London UX/UI Career Accelerator, kicking off your 2025 in the most positive way, which is through the investment in yourself. And there's no better way to invest in yourself through either health or, in this case, education. Thank you all. You've made a commitment today. The next step is to take the next step by booking a time or seeking some more information or actually applying. We're here to help you along the way. So please take that next step, and thank you all for being so engaged and attending today. All the best in your career journey.